Week 11 of the fantasy football season. A few kickers I would start this week. The first kicker, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. Brandon Aubrey, it's been another good season for him, but he's had a couple down games. Week 8, only 5 fantasy points. Week 9 versus Arizona, only 4 fantasy points. And 2 decent matchups. For him, he couldn't get the job done. But like I said, he's got a long-distance boot. One of the best kickers, accuracy-wise, of all time. And this week, a great matchup on Monday night, indoors, and also versus a defense that can't stop anyone at the Raiders that give up the 4th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So this week, after coming off a bye week, I think Aubrey, he's going to go out there, have a big game this week. Next kicker, Jake Bates, the Detroit Lions. So Jake Bates, anytime you're on a high-powered offense, you're going to put points up. And Jake Bates, now the last 3 weeks, 7 or more fantasy points for Bates. I know it's not great numbers, but this week it's a great matchup at the Eagles that give up the most fantasy points to kickers on the season. Week 7 versus Tampa Bay, 8. Week 9 versus Minnesota, 7. And Week 10 at Washington, 9 fantasy points. So like I said, let's say Detroit, they get 3 or 4 touchdowns and Bates gets, a 40 and a 30-yarder in that game. That's a double-digit fantasy game. So this week at Philly, where they got to put points on the board, it's a Sunday night football game as well. I think Jake Bates, he could go out there, have another good game like he did in last week's ball game at the Commanders. Next kicker, Will Richard of the Minnesota Vikings. So Will Richard, he's been a good kicker all season long once again for this Viking team, and he's still out there in over 50% of fantasy leagues. So this Viking offense with J.J. McCarthy in there, they're going to be stalling out a whole lot, and they've been turning the football over a whole lot as well. So Will Richard, the last few games, 3 out of 4 games, 9 or more fantasy points for Richard. Week 7 versus Philadelphia, 16. Week 8 at the Chargers, 6. Week 9 at Detroit, 10. And Week 10 versus Baltimore, 9 fantasy points. So this week, division matchup, Chicago Bears coming in. We know they give up a lot of points. Total is the Chicago Bear defense, even though their offense puts up a lot of points as well. But Richard, 50-plus yards isn't a problem for him. And indoors, not dealing with the elements is a great thing as well. And we know he's got a powerful kick is Will Richard with. He's hit the camera a couple times this season and missed out on 2 field goals because of that. So this week versus the Bears, he's another kicker. I would start next kicker, Tyler Loop of the Baltimore Ravens. Tyler Loop, it's been a solid rookie season. And obviously, it's tough to fill in for a kicker like Justin Tucker, who's been one of the better kickers of all time and had a long career with the Baltimore Ravens. So the last few weeks here for Loop, Week 8 versus the Bears, 12. Week 9 at Miami, 4. And Week 10 at the Vikings, 12. So this week a matchup at Cleveland where we know the weather could get a little tricky in November over here in Cleveland, where possibly even snow, you never know. But Tyler Loop, he's been confident. This offense, they're starting to put up points over the last few weeks since Lamar Jackson returned to the line of 9 at the Miami Dolphins. And this week versus Cleveland, a team that's been don't break at times in the red zone. I think Tyler Loop could go out there once again and be a solid starting option for fantasy owners. Final kick I would start this week is Cam Little with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Cam Little, it's been a struggle for him a majority of the season, but the last 2 weeks now, he's putting up some big points as Cam Little for this Jacksonville Jaguar offense. So Cam Little, we know he hit a 70-yarder in the preseason. It was a lot of talk, a lot of hype, obviously. And then in Week 9 at the Raiders, he hit a 68-yarder for the longest kick of all time is Cam Little in the regular season. So Week 9 at Vegas, 15 fantasy points with that 68-yarder. And then Week 10 at Houston, another big game. It was for Cam Little with 13 fantasy points. So the thing with him has been accuracy issues for Cam Little. But now if he has that under control, I think he could go out there and put up points for fantasy owners. And obviously this Jaguar team, where their offense stalls out. So this week, Cam Little, I like him as an option and a kicker to start this week. So that's a few kickers I would start for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.